Good morning to you. Uh, we are studying the book of the Christ Object Lesson, and we have reached another chapter today. And this chapter is talking about the other lessons from seed sowing. When we think about other lessons, that this is a compilation of all what we studied and looking at it in a different direction. And it is like changing glasses. So you wear a green cooling glass, or you wearing a blue, and you wearing a brown. So the environment looks in that color. So in this particular chapter, Sister White writing here with the inspiration of God, that uh, giving a new perspective or different perspective to the same lessons we learned. Okay, so it becomes a new lesson. Okay, let's begin. So I like to quote that Matthew chapter 6 verse 11, just one sentence. Okay, give us this day our daily bread. Okay, why we are talking about this? Many people don't have that daily bread. Many people are suffering without food and water. Many people are struggling, fighting, okay, and having all sort of problems for just because of this one meal or one day's meal. But we are asking God to provide us this meal, because everything you and I do mainly for what? To eat something, okay, to have some food on the table. So here we are asking God, give us this day our daily bread. So that's what we are trying to see. And I have titled the this lessons that actually with many titles for this whole chapter. And okay, I the first section I like to name it as God provides the best. God provides the best. Let's read from Christ Object Lesson, page 80. This particular paragraph, it says, from the work of seed sowing and the growth of the plant from the seed, precious lessons may be taught in the family and the school. Let the children and youth learn to recognize in natural things the working of divine agencies, and they will be enabled to grasp by faith unseen benefits. Now, that's what we were learning in before, that we place this seed on a soil. Soil may be the best, and we provide everything possible, but we cannot do the germination because it has to be another power to do that. That's what it says, that we have to teach our children and the youth, especially, that to recognize that natural things and the working of that power, working of that divine agency, that we have to encourage our children and the youth to learn that. And we learned many lessons in the previous chapters. No doubts about that, seed sowing to growing, and the weeds and weeds in among the growths, and then about the mustard seed, you know, and so on and so forth. We learned a lot, but we are in this particular chapter. We are learning about God and His providences and how He's handling us. And as a parent, as a colleague, as a friend, as a brother, how He's taking care of us. And He's doing His best. And God provides the best. That's why I titled it in this way. Okay, so we go to the next paragraph. God created the seed as He created the earth by His word. By his word, he gave it power to grow and multiply. He said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And God saw that it was good. It refers Genesis chapter 1, verses 11 and 12. And further, I quote, it is that word which still causes the seed to grow. The same word. and same power, same agency. It comes from the same source. And everything was good. So all things bright and beautiful, his creation. So we have to understand that what we we saw that instrumental, all things bright and beautiful. Yes, God's creation is beautiful, and he found it's as good. It's good. But what happened to that today? It's bad, because it's not that something wrong with God's creation. It's something that in between somebody else came and sowed the weeds. So then this creation got corrupted, and this creation perverted from its purpose, and now this creation and created things have changed its nature. We were created, human beings were created in his image, in their image, I could say. But what happened? So that reminds us the very famous Christian Bible text, Romans 8:28, that it reads, you all know that, okay, but still, I just remind you on that. And we know that all things work together for good for those who love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose. Everything is for good, for good. Let us have patience. Let us have patience and surrender ourselves to him. Okay, now going further down in that same page, Christ Object Lesson pages 80 through 81. Every seed that sends up its green blade to the sunlight declares the wonder working power of that word uttered by him who spoke, and it was, who commanded, and it stood fast. Christ taught his disciples to pray, "Give us this day our daily bread." And pointing to the flowers, he gave them the assurance, "If God so clothe the grass of the field, shall he not much more clothe you?" Referred from Matthew chapter 6. Okay. And these were Christ's words. Okay. And Christ is constantly working to answer this prayer and to make good this assurance. There is an invisible power constantly at work as man's servant to feed and to clothe him. Many agencies our Lord employs to make the seed apparently thrown away, a living plant, and he supplies in the due proportion all that is required to perfect the harvest. In the beautiful words of the psalmist, "Thou visited the earth and waters it. Thou greatly enrichest it. The river of God is full of water. Thou providest them corn when thou hast so prepared the earth. Thou waterest her furrows abundantly. Thou settlest the rides thereof. Thou makest it soft with showers. Thou blessest the springing thereof. Thou crownest the year with thy goodness, and thy paths drop fatness. Psalm 65. Okay. And further, we read in page 81, the material world is under God's control. This particular sentence is very important to you and me. I read again. The material world is under God's control. We are all going after the materialism and material world, but still that material world is under the influence and the control of God. So you want something in the material world, ask him, because he's in control of everything. Okay, the money to the machinery to the objects to the assets to everything, the in the mechanical, electronical, and whatever it is we see in the nature, everything what we can see, the whole thing is under his influence and control. That's what that sentence says. It's a very powerful statement. And I quote further: the laws of nature are obeyed by nature. Everything speaks and acts the will of the Creator. Cloud and sunshine, dew and rain, wind and storm, all are under the supervision of God and yield implicit obedience to his command. We have the evidence that, Jesus was just on that sea, the turmoil taking place and the sea, and he commanded to be silent, and that silenced everything. So that we can see by experience that, it was recorded. We have to understand, when we say give us our daily bread, he can provide that because that is in his control. But only problem we have is that, are we obedient to him? Are we respecting him? And are we having confidence in him? They saying that he can provide, but we are doubting that whether he can provide or not. That is a problem we have. We try our best to do our own way, and we doubt his ability, and we try and we fail. This is what's happening. This is what's happening. It doesn't mean to say that, okay, we have to keep quiet. So our next consideration, the next topic, is going to be his providence requires our effort. Okay, that is the next title I have given. So Christ Object Lesson, page 82, we read, in everything that tends to the sustenance of man is seen the concurrence of divine and human effort. What? Divine and human effort combination is required. You cannot just expect God to say that, okay, Lord, you promised to give me the food. I'm going to sleep now, and when I wake up by midday, I want my food because you promised me. That is not going to take place. Okay, that is what mentions over here. I quote further. There can be no reaping unless the human hands acts its part in the sowing of the seed. But without the agencies which God provides in giving sunshine and showers, dew and clouds, there would be no increase. Of course, yes. The things which beyond our control, he and which are he under his control, he will provide and he will take care. But if we don't do that, do our part, that is going to be a problem. That reminds me a nice story. That now Jesus has gone somewhere outstation, and then his best friend died. Who was that? Lazarus. And the two sisters, and he treated them as his own sisters, and then they were crying, oh Jesus, if you were here, this wouldn't have happened. And okay, they're going on and on and on crying, and then it's a terrible thing, somebody crying in front of you, and Jesus also was an emotional and very sensitive person. We understand with the spirit of prophecy statement. So now what happens? He goes there to the tomb, take me there, and then he can see a large, huge stone rolled in the entrance at that tomb. Then who rolled it there? People rolled it and they placed it there. And Jesus said, please take that stone away, roll it off. He Someone might say that, the person who is going to resurrect Lazarus has all the possibilities on and ability to have a faith like a mustard seed, that to move that stone away. Yes, of course he could have commanded, and when he commanded, the angels would have reacted immediately and rolled it off. But no, he said, the humans, please take it off because you placed it and you should be able to do it. We can, whatever the things that we can do, we must do. We must do. When he wanted to feed the 5,000 or more people, what did he say? He could have just created something, but he didn't do it. He told, please bring some food. And then he multiplied it. He didn't create, but he multiplied with the blessings of the Father. Okay, why that? That has another theology that we have to understand, because he ceased from creation. And after the creation of this world, he ceased creation and he's on a sabbatical. That's why he didn't want to create anything. He didn't create anything new. Okay, he just multiplied. So that is another aspect, another angle to see. But okay, we are not going into that. But we need to keep in mind that God always do things with the collaboration of man. That we have to keep in mind. It is like a joint venture business. Joint venture business. Now, okay, I can say that, okay, when we talk about business, that our lives are like a foreign investment. Okay, someone is very rich from overseas, some country, and has invested, and he's expecting us to work on it because he's not here, but he only provided the the funds. Okay, and he's one of the main investors, and then he's a foreign investor, and he invested, and he expecting us to multiply it, and he wanted us to carry on the business. And if we do not perform the correct way, the business will collapse. His investments are going to be just go down the drain. But because of that, he communicates with us, and he always constantly wanted to us to give reports, what we are doing and what we have done so far and the progress. And he advises, okay, do this, do that, do this, do that. Okay, here a manual is being given to you. Follow that manual. Okay, and all the specifications, all the instructions, follow exactly what the manual says. It's a catalog. What is a catalog? Catalog is the Bible. Who is the foreign investor? That is Christ. And where's the business? That is our life. Okay, it's a joint venture. We have to perform, and He give us the instruction. And whenever we need help, where it is beyond our capacity, He provides the agents, secret agents, to help us. They are the angels. That's what we have to understand. This chapter is so beautiful for us to understand. This is our life, and if we are not going to provide our services and our contribution, the business is going to collapse. But he has given the assurance one day he's going to come back, and this main investor is going to come, and he wanted to see how we have performed, how we look like, and how we have done. And then he says that, okay, I'm going to take you to my home so that you can stay in the headquarters of our business. And that headquarters is heaven. And eventually he wanted to build a new house for us. And then he will put us in that place, and that is a new earth. This is a joint venture business, brother, and we have to keep that in mind. And he's a foreign investor in this business. Okay, Christ object lesson. These are object lessons we are learning from this, okay? And all this time we are talking about agriculture, but now we're talking business, okay? Now we go to page number 82 of Christ object lesson. In this paragraph, we see, whenever man accomplishes anything, whether in spiritual or in temporal lines, he should bear in mind that he does it through cooperation with his maker. There is great necessity for us to realize our dependence on God. Too much confidence is placed in man, too much reliance on human inventions. There is too little confidence in the power which God stands ready to give. We are laborers together with God, quoted from 1 Corinthians 3:9. We have to understand that. Everything is because of Him. Everything is because of His guidelines. We just follow His instruction because we were given a catalog to follow. Okay, let us do that. Okay, the next portion, I'm going to name it as growth and development of a child. Okay, now when we have a child, the child development, and it involves child psychology, and it involves the better upbringing of children, and all these things are given in this particular chapter. We see it in a different perspective. All what we studied summarized, put together, and we see it in a different angle. That's why I said that different colors of glasses that we are using to see that in a beautiful way. Christ Object Lesson, page 83 now. We are reading it. as follows. In both his physical and his spiritual nature, he followed the divine order of growth illustrated by the plant, and he wishes all youth to do. Although he was the majesty of heaven, the King of glory, he became a babe in Bethlehem, and for a time represented the helpless infant in its mother's care. The childhood he did the works of an obedient child. He spoke and acted with the wisdom of a child and not of a man, honoring his parents and carrying out their wishes in helpful ways according to the ability of a child. But at age stage of his development, he was perfect with the simple, natural grace of a sinless life. Now see the gradual development of Jesus. Sometimes some little children act like punks. So I personally don't like that because it is not due. It is not due. A child of 8 years should act like an 8-year-old, and they should not act like 20. Okay. And a child of 15 should act like 15, not like 30. So that's why every time you look at things, you need to go and grow according to your age. And the parents have a bigger role to say that, okay, son, don't do that, daughter, don't do this, because you have more age to come. When the instruction I received from my father was that, okay, son, do the things which is due at your time. And you're going to the university to study. Don't do anything else. Study. I did my best to study. I was the best student. And then that's it. I'm going to the university not to find a bride. I'm going to the university to study. I did that. Okay. I was not interested in anything else. So that instruction I received from my father, quoting this particular place, and whereas I didn't know at that time, but he always said that, Sister White says that, but I never knew until I learned and I studied, and then I realized that, okay, that wisdom is from God and it is from heaven. My dear parents, please teach your children that, ask them to do things in due, whichever is said in a due time. You want to earn, you want to do business, do it. No problem in that. Okay, but do that. Okay, don't divert your attention anywhere else. The children, especially when you want to study, do the studies very well and excel in the studies. Get your first class and get your super first class and go beyond 90s, always the average. And forget about all these things. All these things you can do anytime you want. Okay. At that time, you concentrate on that marriage and business and so on and so forth. Now it is time to study. Do it perfectly. Put 100% in that. Don't concentrate on movies. Don't concentrate on other stuff. Right. And when you begin, some people may have just started an employment, just started your career. And when you start a career, don't look at the watch, don't look at the clock. Okay. And look at the work. Look at how much you can dedicate to the profession, how much you can dedicate to develop your career. And career and employment are two different things. And career and education should go hand in hand. Okay. So before you have a desire for a career, you design your education. But unfortunately, this society is so wicked that it won't help you in that manner. But as much as you can, try to match it. So that will help you to develop your career. The career development, child psychology, child upbringing, all these things included here. How to be a good businessman, study Christ object lesson. You have the success stories here. You can learn from this, and that is the best for you. Okay, how can you successful, how can you earn more money, and how can you be happy while earning money, while you are being rich like Abraham, still you're obedient to the Lord and with all the riches around. Why not? Why not? Well, let's be that. You don't have to choose to be a poor person. No. God wants you to be rich. God want you to be happy. Don't ever, don't ever ask someone, like to say that, no, 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 no. You have to act like a poor. No. Poor in heart. The pride should put away. And we have to poor in heart because not that, poor physically, no money in the pocket. No, it's not. Poor in heart in that sense that, you have to humble yourself and surrender to his will. That we see quickly. Okay. Now, Christ Object Lesson, page 83, we read that here. And of his youth, it is recorded, Jesus increased in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. The work of parents and teachers is here suggested. They should aim to cultivate the tendencies of the youth that at each stage of their life they may represent the natural beauty appropriate to that period, unfolding naturally as do the plants in the garden. Okay? Do the natural way. And you have instincts and you have ability, you have talents, use it naturally. Okay, now the next title I like to say as important duty of the parents explained here. Okay, important duties of the parents mentioned here. Christ Object Lesson, page 83 and 84, we read, the little ones should be educated in childlike simplicity. Childlike simplicity. Don't treat them as big men. Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. Treat them as children. Treat them as children. And further I quote, they should be trained to be content with the small helpful duties and the pleasures of experiences natural to their years. Childhood answers to the blade in the parable, and the blade has beauty peculiar its own. Okay, don't try to put makeup on your child and oh, you look like that actor, they look like this actress. Don't ever do that. Okay, and don't ever dress your boy with a girl's attire and say that, oh, you look a nice girl. Don't ever do that because that is not meant for it, right? Just let it grow. Let them grow in Christ and in a natural way. Christ Object Lesson, page 84, another paragraph, it says, every seed sown produces harvest of its kind. So it is in human life. We all need to sow the seeds of compassion, sympathy, and love, for we shall reap what we sow. That is karma. Okay, what you reap, what you sow. Okay. And Christ Object Lesson, page 84 and 85, we read, God destroys no man. Everyone who is destroyed will have destroyed himself. Everyone who stifles the admonitions of conscience is sowing the seeds of unbelief, and these will produce a sure harvest. By rejecting the first warning from God, Pharaoh of old sowed the seeds of obstinacy, and he reaped obstinacy. Now, what we understand from here is all what you sow, you will reap. All what you sow, you will reap. You cannot reap oranges from a banana tree. Okay, we can reap whatever we have sown. Now, Christ Object Lesson, page 85, we read, every act, every word is a seed that will bear fruit. Every deed of thoughtful kindness, of obedience, or of self denial will reproduce itself in others and through them in still others. So every act of envy, malice, or dissensions is a seed that will spring up in a root of bitterness. Quoting from Hebrews 12:15, whereby many shall be defiled. Now, this we have to understand. What we sow, we reap. And it is parents we have to understand what we train today, a child, that will they will reap when in their adulthood. Okay, sorry, adulthood. Now, I must tell very practical sense that I never chose to smoke. I never wanted to try. Because why? Because I had never seen my father smoking. I had never seen that he's advocating any smoker. No, that he always hated, and he always told that this is not. They're trying to destroy their body, and I have never even experienced or experimented. No, and I'm not boasting myself. I'm just quoting myself because then it is much safer, because rather than I quote somebody else, and they because they will come and sue me otherwise. So that's why I'm quoting myself. Okay. Now, when we think about the children, especially, try your best to be an example. Wake up early morning and show them that, okay, you pray, and they look at you and they start praying. And when you try to be an example, they will follow you. So that is what we understand here. What you sow, you will reap. Okay, you cannot expect your child to go to church while you're not going to church. So these things, we have to understand, and this is very important. Now, again, it's another object lesson that we are going to learn from the next section, and I like to title it Generosity Will Be Rewarded. It's talking about generosity, and we go quickly because we already past the time. Christ Object Lesson, page 85 and 86, we read, liberality, both in spiritual and in temporal things, it is sought in the lesson of seed sowing. The Lord says, blessed are ye that sow beside all waters. This I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. To sow beside all waters means a continual imparting of God's gifts. It means giving wherever the cause of God or the needs of humanity demand our aid. This will not tend to poverty. He which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. Let us give generously, and we will reap generously. That is what we understand. Page 86, we read, God has promised them a sufficiency, and they may continue to give. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. There, referred from Luke 6:38. Okay, now this is the reaping what you sow, and it's the same principle applied in a different way. You give and you will receive. Okay, now next title I could say, okay, the seed dies at germination like Christ. To give a new life, that seed, what we sow, dies. So that is exactly what Christ did. So that lesson is also given here. Christ Object Lesson, page 86, we read that by the casting of grain into the soil, Christ represents the sacrifice of himself for our redemption. Except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, he says, it abideth alone, but if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit. So the death of Christ will result in fruit for the kingdom of God. In accordance with the law of the vegetable kingdom, life will be the result of his death. How beautifully give the examples given here. This is botany, science, and given it in a practical way, comparing Christ's mission. Pages 86 and 87, we read, but the law of self-sacrifice is a law of uh, preservation. The seed buried in the ground produces fruit, and in turn, this is planted. Thus, the harvest is multiplied. The husbandman preserves his grain by casting it away. So, in human life, to give is to live. The life that will be preserved is a life that is freely given in service to God and man, those who, for Christ's sake, sacrifice their life in the world. will keep it unto life eternal. Okay, so it's very self-explanatory. So I don't have to explain anything further. And let's go quickly to page 87. The seed dies to spring forth into new life. And in this, we are taught the lesson of the resurrection. All who love God will live again in Eden above. Of the human body laid away to molder in the grave, God has said, it is sown in corruption, it is raised in corruption. It is sown in dishonor, it is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness, it is raised in power. Now, I go to page 88. The soil will not produce its riches when worked by impulse. It seeks thoughtful daily attention. It must be plowed often and deep with a weave to keep out the weeds that take nourishment from the good seed planted. Thus, those who plow and so prepare the harvest, none need stand in the field amid the sad wreck of their hopes. The last lines I read from 89, page 89. While the human sower is planting the seed to sustain our earthly life, the divine sower will plant in the soul the seed that will bring forth fruit unto life everlasting. Amen.